Her triumphs, I took a group of women that didn't believe in themselves, and I just believed in them. Her trials,
I never wanted to go to practice. I was losing a ton of weight.
Her story,
I just put my faith in God and just trusted the system.
Her why.
I want people to see what I did and say, oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to be better than that. That would be how I hope that this journey ends.
This is Her Why, where we tell the stories from BYU women's sports. Here is your host, Lauren McLean.
We're so glad you're here with us on Her Why, where we celebrate the women that make BYU sports great. Joining me today is dual sport pro athlete and BYU Hall of Famer Jennifer Hamson. Jen, thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, good to see you. First off, congratulations on being inducted into the BYU Athletic Hall of Fame. That's really, really cool. How did you first get the news that you were going to be inducted?
It was a phone call. Greg called me and said, hey, we've made the decision. You're being inducted. And it was actually quite a shock. I was like, okay, great. What does that mean? I'm not really sure. So, it's quite an honor. They're amazing athletes, also inducted. And, it's just an honor to be among them, honestly. So.
What was that moment like for you when he told you? What were you feeling?
Like I said, just kind of shocked, but super excited. There's a great legacy with BYU and athletics, and it's just been so fun to be a part of that. And then you may know my mom is also inducted, so just being a part of her legacy and being able to be inducted with her as well is just unbelievable.
That's incredible. So who was the very first person you called when you found out?
My family, my dad and my mom. Told them immediately. They're super excited, obviously. And then I had some friends that I called next.
That's incredible. And you were inducted alongside other BYU legends like Dave Rose, Brian Billick. Like, that's pretty cool. What was it like to share the honor with such amazing and accomplished group of athletes and coaches?
It was so fun. It was fun to kind of get together and see them and hear their stories and things like that. You know, Dave Rose was there when I was there, and so they were very successful, and it was fun to kind of see all these athletes that I played with and coaches and things that I had been around while I was here at BYU. It was really fun.
Were you also a little bit like, how am I old enough to be inducted into the Hall of Fame?
A little bit of like, wait, didn't I just graduate?
Yes.
This is like 2 years ago, I swear.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's how I felt when I saw that you were inducted. I'm like, no, I was just covering her games playing. Like, this is crazy. But so cool. One of the cool things you got to do was to go down during a football game on LaVell Edwards Stadium on the ground. What was that like to just be there in front of all those fans and receive that recognition?
It's always really amazing. BYU has some of the best fans in the world, and there's great support for BYU. And so it's just fun to see the atmosphere, and football did really well that day. And it's just fun to see all the fans come support the athletes there and support us. And so it was good.
The fans were extra hyped up.
They really were. It was really fun to see them all.
So cool. Take me through the weekend. What all did you get to do?
Oh, man. There's like the dinner officially where you officially get inducted. It was really fun, full of amazing people related to all the athletes and coaches that were inducted. And it's really fun to meet everyone and talk and reminisce and things like that. And then we had the football game. I also went to the volleyball game, just my alma mater, and they were playing earlier before the football game. So it was fun to see them and crush the team that they were playing. And and then we had the football game.
That's so cool. Your family's been such a big part of your journey. You've mentioned your mom, Teresa, is also in the Athletic Hall of Fame. What was it like to spend that weekend with your family?
Oh, it was everything. Everyone who was the biggest support to me while I was at BYU and after was able to come. So I'm so grateful that they were able to make those little sacrifices to come for the weekend for me and for our family. And so it means everything to have the people that supported you and lifted you up while you were working and striving be there when you're celebrated. So it's really nice.
When you were an athlete at BYU, did you feel like you were carrying your mom's legacy, like carrying it on? I'm sure you've been asked that so many times, but she was such a legend here. Do you ever feel that pressure?
Oh, 100%. You feel it whether you wanted to or not.
Yeah.
My mom always was like, I'm trying not to pressure you. And I'm like, 100%. It just happens because, you're Teresa's daughter or whatever. And I happen to look a lot like her. And so everyone's like, oh, spitting image. And so, but yeah, I definitely wanted to do something a little different. And so I definitely did my own version of that, but she was definitely the inspiration behind it of you can do anything and to be a great athlete. So
That's so cool. She's an amazing woman. She really is. This induction recognizes your accomplishments in both basketball and volleyball, which is so awesome. Not many athletes get to achieve the dual sport success, especially on the collegiate level. What was it like for you to be honored for both sports?
it was everything. In the beginning, I was like, I'm just not choosing. I don't really care what happens. And the number one thing I was told is like, you just can't be great at both. And so just to be, honestly, it was like a little thorn in my side. I was like, well, let me try. And so it was really fun to be able to be a part of two teams. I really felt like I was the lucky one. I got two amazing coaching staffs, two amazing teammates, teams worth of teammates. And I had all these amazing people around me supporting me and we supporting each other. And I had an amazing time here. So.
Since you had people kind of chirping in your ear, though, like you can't be great at both sports, you got to choose one. Was there ever a time during your career where you're like, okay, I think I'm going to choose one over the other?
There were a couple of times where I thought about it because it was really hard. There was a lot of compromising that had to happen on each side, and coaches were driving each other crazy trying to make those decisions. And it kind of did happen a little bit where my senior year, we decided to redshirt for volleyball. So then I played 1 year just solely basketball my senior year. And then I had a separate senior year of solely volleyball. And it was kind of much needed, honestly, because it was just getting too competitive. But it was awesome. It was awesome to see what I could do when I was just focused on one. And yeah, it was fun.
When you look back, do you have any regrets when it has to do with that, choosing both sports instead of just choosing one? Or are you just glad for the journey that you had?
I don't have a lot of regrets. It was such a unique choice that I got the opportunity to make. And it just led to great things afterwards as well. And so definitely no regrets. I thought it happened, the way it was supposed to happen. So.
I love that. Let's talk about this because it's amazing. You recently climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. What inspired you to take that trip?
I've always wanted to. I really got into hiking when I was a pro athlete just because it was a way to like stay in shape. And then I had a friend who was also really into hiking. And so we hiked a lot. And then it was always in the back of our mind of something we wanted to do. It's like a soul standing mountain. It's one of the easier like first big climb mountains. And so it's always been something we wanted to do. And then the opportunity just came after school, and financially we could all afford to do it. And so, yeah.
How did you train for that?
Not very well, admittingly. But, I hiked the mountains here, Timpanogos a few times and, just hiked around these mountains here as much as I could. Wow. Wasn't quite enough, to be honest.
And then headed on over to Kilimanjaro. Wow, because were you feeling it? Like when you were hiking, were you like, whoa, I was not quite prepared for this?
Yeah, I definitely felt it, got sore, but it turned out to be more of a mental struggle than like a physical one, just pushing past like, the pain and the struggle. And can you make it to the top? And so, I ended up, and there was a lot of support from the company that we were with. And so we ended up making it, which is great. So
how did the elevation affect you?
Gratefully, not too bad. I felt like I was really prepared for that. Living in Utah, you're kind of a little bit at an advantage. Yeah. And so, luckily I didn't get sick. So,
That's amazing. And you went with some friends, did you say?
Yeah, I went with a friend of mine, Sarah. Yeah.
Okay. And what was it like when you finally reached the top, when you got there?
Oh, it's unbelievable. Honestly, it's gorgeous, number one. You're just at the top of the clouds. You feel like that view from the plane where you're looking down on the clouds, but you're on land. And it's just gorgeous. And we climbed in a way that we were there just around sunrise. So gorgeous view. And then just the fact that you did that. Like it was really hard pushing through, climbing up the mountain in the dark. You're just monitoring to yourself that you could do it and that you're strong enough to make it. And then to finally make it, it's really fun.
How long did it take?
It took about 6 hours.
6 hours? Yeah. That's actually shorter than what
I mean, the last push.
Okay.
It took about 7 days.
Yeah, I was
the
like,
whole thing.
Wait, what?
No, don't worry. I think that's like the world record is 1 day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So 7 days in total.
Yeah.
So cool. Looking back at your journey at BYU, was there a specific turning point in your career when you realized your legacy was truly being solidified at BYU and that people were like starting to know your name and know who you were?
I don't know. That was always so hard. Probably later, when I was a junior, when we started being more successful. I think that first time for volleyball, when we made it to the Sweet 16, just started to really hit that we were doing something great and that we had this potential. I feel like for the longest time, I was always super naive to my own potential, just was kind of there for the work and just loved playing. But then my junior year, we got that taste. We got so far in the tournament. And I was like, man, we can go so much further. And I finally started to see what our team could be and what we could do. And I think that was kind of the first time I was like, all right, like we're actually really good and we actually could be even better. So
In both sports?
Yes.
You were having incredible success. When you look back on your senior season, let's start with volleyball. Like what stands out to you the most?
Volleyball senior season?
Yeah.
Wow, there's just so many things. I just remember it being a little bit of a rough start just because I'd underestimated taking a year off from volleyball. And just coming back was difficult. It was hard to get back to exactly where I was, and it took time and effort. But then our season kind of was okay. It wasn't the best season we ever had. We were like kind of mid-ranked. But at the same time, like I just knew we were so good. And we had made all these lofty goals in the beginning and we were just kind of not quite where we wanted to be. And so going into the tournament, we were ranked like 11.
Yeah.
Like super terrible.
Yeah.
And we weren't even hosting, like nowhere where we thought we should be.
Right.
And I just remember thinking that doesn't matter, that we're going to just push through and make it. And I think everyone was kind of behind that idea of like, let's just keep going one game at a time. And it ended up being like our little mantra of like, why not? Why not us? And so, yeah, I think we just held on to that and played really well. And next thing we knew it, we're up at that last game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really incredible.
What an incredible year. And then in 2014, you were named WCC Player and Defensive Player of the Year in basketball. You also go to the Sweet 16. So when you look back on that time, what stands out to you the most about that experience?
That was I just remember our team stuck together a lot. There were a lot of changes. We made some huge game changes and strategy changes for some of those games that I think really helped us win and get the little advantages that we had. And again, it's one of those things where your team is just on the same page and we just knew we were great and that we had some more to do. And I don't know, it's just that weird feeling and it's just an incredible experience to be able to just come together and beat teams that are technically a little bit better than you. And so it's just amazing.
When you come here on BYU campus and maybe when you were even inducted to the Hall of Fame, do you miss it? Like when you're here, you're like, oh my gosh, I miss this time.
I think you miss like your teammates and like playing at that high of a level. You don't really get to play that again, especially now. Like I'm retired, like I don't get to play at that beautiful level in front of all those people. And it's just a unique experience here. And I do miss it a little bit, but it's also fun to see, family and friends and the new teams and coaches come through here and do great things as well and cheer them on and just see like BYU's legacy just continue to grow and excellence and stuff like that.
You recently had a 10-year reunion with that 2014 Sweet 16 team. What was that like?
Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun to see everyone there, everyone make the effort to come and talk and reminisce of crazy things that happened. You're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about these little details and the funny things. And it's just so fun to see people again and relive those memories.
Let's rewind a little bit. Your family's full of athletes, especially your mom, Teresa. How did growing up in such a competitive family influence you as an athlete?
Yeah, it was interesting because honestly, we were never very competitive with each other because I think we knew that it would just not end well because we already were like at each other's throats at a board game. And then if it just got too real. So we never played each other. It was like the most common question we'd always get, like, who would win one-on-one? And we're like, we don't know because we don't even try to go there because it's not going to end well for some people. But yeah, we were always just super supportive. Did workouts together, worked out with my sisters multiple times, and just kind of worked on skills and what we've learned and what each other had learned. And yeah, my mom would run drills and things like that. And so it was just really fun working out together to build each other's game. It's kind of more what it was like. We weren't super competitive.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that connection with your sisters. Sarah played basketball and volleyball at BYU as well. And then Heather plays for BYU right now. What was it like sharing that athletic connection with your sisters?
Oh, it's everything. It's so fun. And then I also love, like, you learn a lot when you play and then, you know, maybe have some small regrets about how you handle things and be able to share that with my sisters and hopefully help them make less mistakes or less things like that, or just enjoy the moments more, things like that. Be a little less hard on themselves, you know, just kind of encourage that feeling, because it's once in a lifetime to play here at BYU, and I just want them to be able to enjoy their experiences. And also it's fun to share a similar talent, that we're all very talented at basketball. And so it's really fun.
Did they turn to you for advice a lot, seeing that you kind of went through everything before they did?
I think sometimes, you know, sometimes they want to experience it themselves, you know, kind of create their own legacies. But a lot of times, yes, sometimes I just give it to them, whether they ask for it or not, to be honest. But
you're like, here you go. You're going to listen, whether you like it or not. You are 6'7", which is a big advantage, obviously, in both basketball and volleyball. Did you always like being tall, or were there challenges growing up being so tall?
I mean, there's always challenges, but there's not like a choice there, you know? Like, it's not like I can be like, oh, I'm going to be shorter today.
Right.
So eventually, you know, our family has always talked about it. You're looked up to whether you like it or not. Like, people are looking at you. And so just making sure that you're living your life, that you don't mind that people are watching. And so honestly, I'm so good at like ignoring the little stuff. Like, I don't even notice people staring or taking pictures and things, but I don't know. I just try to live my life the best I can and take advantages of the height that I do have through athletics. And so, yeah. Your
whole family's pretty tall. How tall? Who's the tallest in your family?
My brothers, they're about 7'3".
7'3". And then then what's the order beyond that?
Then my dad, 6'8". My mom, me, and Sarah are all about 6'7". And then Heather, the little runt, 6'3".
The runt at 6'3". How does she feel about that? Like, is that something that was weird for her? She's like, I'm only 6'3" in this family?
I mean, it is really weird because she's never thought of herself as tall. And then she goes in the regular world and she's very tall. And it's also, kind of funny because she grew later than the rest of us. And we were really nervous. She wasn't even going to make 6 foot. And we're like, you really do need to be taller than 6 feet. But yeah, she ended up growing later and ended up being 6'3". So
let's talk about how your sports journey began. What sports did you play growing up?
I did gymnastics because my best friend did gymnastics, and I was like, yes, I'm doing that with you. My mom was like, what are you doing? Basketball is obviously our family sport. Yeah. And I was like, no one I know plays basketball. I'm not doing that. And then, I was in junior high, and a bunch of my friends had convinced me to try out for the basketball team. So I just come home and I'm like, all right, Mom, I'm trying out for the basketball team. And she was shocked. Later, I found out she was very nervous for me. She's like, this girl does not know how to play basketball. She cannot go try out. She knows nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, so then she grouped up this small bantam league team so I could learn how to play basketball before I tried out. So I at least knew something.
So you didn't play basketball at all before junior high?
No, not at all.
Were you doing gymnastics
I literally was just doing gymnastics up until did a little bit of church volleyball and basketball, which kind of pushed me into trying out as a 9th grader. But 9th grade was my first time playing either sport.
Yeah. How did you do in gymnastics being so tall? Because obviously you're probably a lot taller than the other girls. What was that like for you? Oh,
it was absolutely terrible. But I really loved it. All my friends were there, and I don't know, I was strong. I feel like I gained a lot from it. I was very strong and coordinated coming into playing basketball and volleyball as a 9th grader. But yeah, I was absolutely terrible. There were times where they had to move the beam because I would have hit this like air vent if I didn't done my routine correctly. We like broke the bars one time trying to like adjust them for my height. Like there were always these little things where I just didn't quite fit into that world, but I just loved it. So
They're like, Jen, maybe move on to something else. We can't afford to have you here anymore.
I just wouldn't listen.
Oh my gosh. I love that though. I think that's fantastic. And obviously it probably helped you a lot athletically and with your strength and everything like that once you moved on to other sports. So at what point with basketball and maybe volleyball as well, were you like, okay, I'm starting to like this. I'm pretty good at this.
It really was those first teams, like those 9th grade teams. Everyone was super kind to me as I was trying to learn how to play these sports I've never played. And it was just really fun. I really enjoyed them. And I quickly got very good, which I think I started to see that I did have like a height advantage and it was helpful. So,
okay. So when did schools start coming to look at you for those sports?
oh man, I don't even know. I mean, you always get like little things, I think, when I was like sophomore, junior.
Yeah.
But I really didn't get heavily recruited until I was a senior because took me a while to actually get good at these sports because I had just started. So I really didn't get recruited until I was a senior and so I didn't really make that decision until like midway through my senior year.
Right.
So, yeah.
Once you were all in on basketball and volleyball, what influence did your mom have on you during that part of life?
Both my parents were super annoyingly supportive in that they were like, this is your decision. And even my mom like has that true BYU rivalry with Utah. And she was like, even if you go to Utah, I can wear black. I don't have to wear red. I can go and support you and wear black. So they were super supportive, wanted me to make whichever decision I wanted to make. They didn't push me one way or the other. But yeah.
I love your mom for that. I think that's so great.
I know.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more from BYU Hall of Famer Jennifer Hamson. This is Her Why. This is Lauren McLean. Last season on Deep Blue, we heard inspiring stories from many amazing BYU athletes, coaches, and personnel, including BYU quarterback Gary Bohannon, who's from a small Arkansas town, and how he went from Baylor to BYU and what it's like playing for his son. BYU quarterback Jake Retzloff talks about how one class prevented him from beginning his playing career as a UTEP minor and what it was like playing his last 4 games under tough conditions. Join us for this season, where you'll find more great Cougar stories, including football players Tyler Batty, Darius Lassiter, Chase Roberts, and Hinkley Ropati. And BYU basketball head coach Kevin Young talks about how getting fired was a pivotal moment in his life and his journey to BYU. Catch Deep Blue on the BYU radio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to Her Why. I'm Lauren McLean. I'm here with former pro basketball and volleyball player Jennifer Hamson. So after your time at BYU, you're drafted into the WNBA by the Los Angeles Sparks, but you had the opportunity to play professional volleyball as well. How did you make that decision at that time?
Oh, it was complete torture. I had no idea what I was going to do because I technically got drafted before my last season of volleyball. And they were like, it's all right. We know that you're going to continue your season. We'll defer you till next season. It's totally fine. And it was just a tough decision to make because I ended playing volleyball and I don't know, it was so hard because I loved both sports. I obviously was talented in each of them and it just was super hard to decide. And so eventually I just decided basketball was kind of the better choice for me at the time. And and then it was great.
What factors went into making that decision? What made you ultimately choose basketball and think that was the right choice at the time?
It was just so hard. But I think eventually the choice that I ended up making was that basketball was slightly easier on my body. And I just had a lot of injuries with volleyball and issues, and I just didn't think I could play for very long or very happily for very long. And then I just wanted to see what I could do with basketball. I really started to love it during that senior year and more than I had before, and I just really wanted to see what I could do with it. And so, Yeah.
So cool. You played for both the LA Sparks and the WNBA, and then internationally in the Russian Professional Basketball League. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced transitioning from college level to the professional level?
Oh, there's just so many challenges. Obviously, physicality is a huge one. Just everyone's bigger and stronger and faster. And so getting used to that. And and then just the thoughts behind it are different. It's more of a business. Because college just always felt like such a family to me.
Right.
You have who you have, and you build them up into whoever the highest potential you can give.
Yeah.
And then professionally, all of a sudden, it was like, if you don't do what we want, we will get rid of you. Type of an idea where it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can just get kicked off this team at any moment, which was kind of hard to wrap my mind around for a while. But yeah, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was definitely an increase in level of basketball, which was so fun to play against people who were amazing and even better than me. And so, yeah, it was really fun.
You got to compete against Brittany Griner. Is that right? So she's one of the few players that's a little taller than you, I believe.
Is one of the few. I think I played against 2 people who were ever taller than me, and she was one of them. Yeah.
What was it like competing against her?
Well, it's crazy because you feel smaller, even though it's just an inch or 2. You do feel you feel those 2 inches. But it was fun too. Took it as a little bit of a challenge. She was kind of that star player on the other team, and I was the little rookie trying to make my name and trying to stop whatever I could. And so, yeah. I just tried to do what I could, try to touch any ball I could of hers. I got one small little block off of her highlight, but yeah.
I hope you got a picture of that moment. That was pretty cool. Did you feel any particular pressure playing in venues like the Staples Center? What was that like?
I didn't feel pressure, but it was definitely amazing just to feel the energy and to be on these courts that honestly you've seen on TV and just dreamed about, like Madison Square Garden, and just walking on all those courts was unbelievable. And it was I was just trying at the moment to take everything in and just enjoy every opportunity that I had, because you never know how long it'll last. And so, yeah, I just tried to enjoy every moment that I had.
Was your family able to come to many of the games?
Not many, but a few, because at the time my younger siblings were growing and doing their own things. But yeah, they definitely came to a few. So
after playing in the WNBA, you decided to return to volleyball, and you signed with a team in Germany. You mentioned before that your love for volleyball never went away, even when you were playing basketball. So what drew you back to volleyball after your basketball career?
Oh gosh, I just felt like I was in a little bit of funk, and I don't know, I was kind of done with basketball, but I wasn't done with playing. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I'm pretty sure my parents put it into my head of well, why don't you try volleyball? Let's see what can happen. And I called Heather Olmstead at the time, who was the head coach here. And I was like, what do you think? Be honest.
Yeah.
How realistic is this? And she's like, no, if you want to do it, great, And so, yeah, we tried it, and she helped me get in contact with some people that could help and help me figure it out, because, who's going to recruit you when you haven't played volleyball in 4 years?
Right.
So, yeah, help me figure out some agents and some ways to do some tryouts so I can get on a team. And, yeah, I ended up getting on a team in Germany, and, yeah, it was fun.
How were you able to get back into shape? Because, you were in shape, but you were in basketball shape. And then you mentioned that you had gotten all these injuries in volleyball, and it kind of uses your body differently. So how were you able to physically make that transition back to volleyball?
Oh, it was not easy. But yeah, I worked out with my siblings a lot, and there were some club coaches in the area who kind of helped out, and because it was all about getting reps and getting my arm really used to swinging again, and swinging hundreds of times in a day, when before it was doing nothing. So yeah, it was really, really getting the arm swing down. But I was also shocked how quickly everything clicked back together. It was really shocking. Muscle memory is real. And so yeah, it just took a lot of work and a lot of time just to try and get my arm back to usual. But I did have a lot of injuries coming back into it because of that. So
that's really tough. How different was the level of play in European volleyball versus collegiate, which was the last thing that you had played?
Yeah, the level is interesting. Yeah, it's just different because they play a slightly different game, honestly, like way less subs. We sub so much in NCAA volleyball right now. And so it was interesting. They sub way less, so I was able to play all the way around and play more of that back row game that I really love. And yeah, and the level is, higher in ways and different in ways. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So you lived in Germany, you lived kind of all over. What were some of the biggest cultural adjustments you had to make while living overseas?
Oh, there's so many. Usually the language is like the biggest one. Like for Russia, for example, I was one of the only ones on the team who spoke English. And I had a translator with me who knew nothing about basketball, but, could speak English. And so it was very interesting to try to figure out like what coaches were saying, teammates and stuff like that. It kind of made it a little isolating because it's hard to hang out with teammates when you can't really communicate with them and stuff like that. But yeah, but then other places like Germany, a lot of people speak English. That team also had more people from other countries than other teams I had been on. And so it was fun seeing all the cultures come together in lots of ways and clash in other ways. And it was fun to see us try to figure it out because for volleyball, you really need that team chemistry if you want to be a good team. And so figuring that out on an international level was really fun and really challenging.
Having people from all these different countries with different views and ideas and cultures trying to become one on the volleyball court.
Oh, 100%. Even just speaking in general, we had this girl from Slovenia, and they just tend to have like a harsher, they're just more blunt, let's just say.
Yeah.
And so she just like bluntly said something to one of my teammates, and my teammate just like took it really personally. I was like, no. She like literally just meant what she said. She's not mad at you. Like there's no emotion behind it.
Yeah.
She just, anyways, so trying to figure that out.
Wow. Which is kind of refreshing.
It really is.
You're like, hey, you're saying what you mean. This is great.
Exactly.
We don't do that as much here. You've just done so many incredible things in your life and your athletic career. And I know you're really close with your family. So what was that like for you and for your family being so far apart for that long when you were playing overseas?
I mean, it was tough in a lot of ways, but I'm also super grateful for modern technology because I was able to FaceTime, Skype pretty often. And so, yeah, it was nice. And I was able to still talk to them and communicate with them. I was home during the summers a lot. So, I still got time with them when they're all off from school. So there's time to reconnect and still hang out and figure out how their lives are going and things like that. So, but there definitely was some distance for a little while, and we've definitely gotten closer since I've been back in the U.S. So
it was like you were on a mission. It was kind of your mission in life.
Similarly, yeah, definitely felt like it.
You ended up retiring from professional sports after dealing with a shoulder injury. But have you ever, now that there's volleyball here in the United States, which there wasn't before, have you considered the idea of maybe getting back into it?
Oh my gosh, yes. But I'm trying really hard not to. Because I am excited about my next career and what I'm doing next. And I think there's a time and place to play and a time and place to move on and figure out what's next in your life. So definitely it crosses my mind. But
yeah.
definitely
You're trying
not.
to stay more logical and stick to the plan.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm excited about where my life is moving and just want to stick with that and not get too distracted by other things.
Has anyone reached out to you kind of and contacted you about playing?
Not since I said no.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of like said no to a couple of people and they kind of...
Word spread.
Yes.
Well, you're doing some incredible things. You just graduated from PA school, right?
Yes.
What made you decide to go into the healthcare industry after retiring from professional sports?
I've honestly always wanted to. It was always in the plan. I had a discussion with a really close professor of mine here while I was at BYU as a sophomore. And I was like, hey, I really want to be a doctor. And I was a sophomore at the time, so I really wasn't quite that good at BYU. We just weren't quite going places yet.
Yeah.
It was still new. I wasn't the star athlete yet. But he was like, you can always You can always learn later. You can always go to school later. You can always do things later. And this is the time for you to really explore your sport. I think he really pushed me to just focus on your sport and then figure out life later. There's always time. He's like, you can be a doctor in your 50s if you really want to.
Yeah.
And so I took that advice and focused on my sport. And so just as I was a professional and just kind of in the back of my mind, always kind of thinking where I wanted to go. As an athlete, you're around a lot of medical professionals like physical trainers and doctors and things like that. And so it's interesting to see, kind of what I wanted to go into and got to see kind of their role in at least the athletic side of it. But yeah, eventually my aunt kind of introduced me to the PA field, and it was the perfect fit for me. So,
what did you love about the PA field specifically?
I just thought it fit really well into my life, and that the schooling isn't forever.
Yeah.
But then it gives you that autonomy, though, still in medicine, where you can make decisions and diagnose and still prescribe and still have a lot of say in someone's care. So, yeah.
With being a PA, you can go into like a bunch of different fields, right? Have you decided or thought about which specific area you want to go into?
I haven't quite decided yet, but I do love acute care. I love working in hospitals and kind of that side of it. And so that's kind of what I'm going for right now.
That's super cool. Yeah. You've always been driven to help others, whether on the court or in the clinic. How do you see yourself continuing to make an impact in your medical career?
I just love helping people and helping people do what they love. And I feel like a lot of times we go to the doctors is because something's influencing our lives that we can't do what we love. And so just being able to help other people get back to doing what they love and sharing how to help their health be better so that they can do like things that they love, whether it's sports or walking or enjoying your family or things like that.
So cool. I'm here with dual sport pro athlete and BYU Hall of Famer Jennifer Hamson. Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me, and good luck moving forward with your healthcare career.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks to Annie Robinson and Sydney Simpson for producing this episode with senior producer Cleon Wall. Her Why is a production of BYU Radio.